The government is said to be considering to allow Brits who have been double jabbed to avoid quarantine if they return from amber list countries. Currently, if you return from an amber list country, you have to quarantine for 10 days and take 2 tests around day 2 and day 8.
The proposals which are still being considered would mean that those coming from amber list countries, currently include places like France and Italy, would only need to take a test upon their return.
Yes, and we're now joined by Lisa Francesca Nand, who's the presenter of the Big Travel podcast. Thank you for joining us, Lisa.
Good morning.
What do you make of this news that the government is said to be considering double-jabbed people won't have to quarantine? I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense. You know, if you'd have asked me a few months ago, I would have said, oh, that's unfair. What about the people who can't have the vaccine or won't have the vaccine? But I think now this is exactly what we need to do. The EU are doing it. They're bringing in their digital green passport from the 1st of July. We need to get things moving. It's not just about holidays anymore. I'm one of the people who is desperate to travel and go on holiday and go to visit friends and family abroad. But it's not just about that anymore. We need to get things moving. In the travel industry, we reckon there's about 3.9 million jobs affected by travel, which might go if we don't get something moving very soon. So I think this is exactly what we need to do, and we need to do it very quickly.
We've been talking a lot about Freedom Day, which was due to be the 21st of June, obviously now being moved to at least July the 19th. Do you think even when we do reach that July the 19th, that we're going to see actually any differences, the restrictions lifted in terms of travel, or will we pretty much expect to have to, live under this green, amber, red system? So when will Freedom Day really be for travellers who want to travel anywhere they'd like to?
This is the big question, isn't it? And there was no real news for the travel industry last week when the Freedom Day announcement and delay came. The next date for us in the travel industry is next Thursday, apparently, the 24th. That's when they're going to give us some news. But we do need some news. We need to get people moving. You know, who's going to go on holiday at the moment? I mean, I'm, the most gung-ho of travellers. And even I'm thinking, well, actually, is it safe to book something? But we really need to just get this cert. I mean, who knows? Like, when we had the announcement about the green list countries, we were actually, in the industry, all the experts, we were expecting more countries to go on the green list, and actually Portugal came off the green list. So we just don't know, and I think it's this uncertainty that's going to stop people travelling and make people think, well, actually, I'm not going to go anywhere, and this is really going to be very, very damaging for the industry all round.
Yeah, and so much uncertainty for people whose jobs rely on tourism as well, Lisa. We did a story yesterday about EasyJet relocating a lot of their planes from the UK to Germany because Germany's got a rather more liberal attitude to people travelling abroad for their holidays right now, and that's where the business is, hence the planes have moved. When you talk to people who work in travel, whether that's for airlines, whatever aspect of tourism it is, are people actually really considering their options, medium and long term? Are they looking hard at whether this is a sustainable career for the future?
I think that it must be a very personal thing. I do know travel agents that I've spoken to that have been working for 15, 16 months now, and all they've been doing is chopping and changing bookings. They actually haven't had any money, and a lot of people have fallen through the cracks in terms of furloughs or self-employment support. So yeah, I don't blame people for, actually thinking, can we sustain this long term? I mean, even before COVID, we had Flybe, Thomas Cook, which did come back in some form or other. We had Monarch, all these big companies going bust. And this was before COVID. We're actually at the very real situation that massive companies could go under. And it's not just about the fat cats at the top. It's about everyone. It's about the cleaners, the people that work in the airports, the people that work in shops near the airports, the taxi drivers, all these people. It is, they estimate around 3.9 million jobs will be affected by travel and aviation. There's already been a lot lost. It really is not just about holidays anymore, even though, there's absolutely no shame in wanting a holiday. A lot of us really feel like we need a holiday after the year or so we've had.
And just one last question. We had a story yesterday about care staff, for example, having quite low vaccination rates, lower than is needed by the government, particularly agency staff. And of course, the reason we're delaying at the moment is because the government wants more people to be double jabbed. Do you think, saying to people, look, if you're not going to get double jab, you're not going to go on holiday, is pretty much the only way to get people having those jabs? Because I think we heard 50% 50% of anti-vaxxers have now been jabbed, which is great news. But do you think that's the only way left to kind of nudge people into finally getting those jabs if they are sceptical?
I don't know. It's a very difficult question. I'm all for people's, liberty to choose, but vaccines for travel are not a new thing. As a travel professional, if you want to go to a certain country, you have to have yellow fever, you have to have all sorts of things. So vaccines for travel are a lot different to, say, vaccines to going in the pub. And I think that absolutely, if we can have that proof of double vaccine be accepted for travel, we should. But I do believe that also should be an option. And there is, with the EU thing that they're doing from the 1st of July, there is also the option to show a negative PCR test. They're not going to say if you've not had the vaccine you can't go away. They're saying that if you have the vaccine you can come in without any proof of anything, any tests or anything, restrictions, but also you can do the PCR test. So I do believe there should be an option, but whatever it is, we need to get it moving just as soon as possible. We need to have some certainty, otherwise it's going to be another lost summer, and another lost summer will mean, yes, a loss of holidays for many people, but also a lot of jobs in the industry.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Lisa Francesca Nand there from the Big Travel Podcast.
That's the story.